creating a world where people who are dealing with illnesses like cancer don't feel alone. And it kind of ties up with my own journey because I was alone in Canada in a sense that I was the only adult at that time, and I had 4 kids when I was diagnosed with cancer.
All my life, I have believed in the medical system because to me, when people ask you, who are your heroes? I don't really have a hero. My superheroes are people in the medical profession because from growing up as a kid who was always in the hospital in Jamaica, I was the girl in a bubble. I had asthma attacks. I couldn't laugh or else I'd have an asthma attack. So I've always believed that they are the people who will always help me.
I believed that my life didn't matter. And that was because I was in a marriage that was very verbally, emotionally abusive. And I had no other family members here, nobody to, show me affection and make me feel good about myself. So over years of this kind of abuse, I began to believe that I was not lovable. So cancer was a gift that taught me how to appreciate life.
Yes.
And that I matter.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's the whole thing. And unfortunately, I think sometimes in life it takes something like that to wake us up.
As I was waiting and sitting in the waiting room for them to call my name. And then all of a sudden your name was called, right? And I remember walking in and being greeted by this, tall woman, blonde hair, beautiful, and she sat me down and she said, "I'm really sorry to tell you, but you have cancer."
I was praying. I was praying and I was asking, for a second chance to do life a little better.
And then I used to sit and curse myself and, sit quietly and say, why don't I die? Because, my life is a burden.
I'm used to being independent, and it was at that moment that I realized I am no longer independent, and it was scary. I didn't know what to do.
Medically, doctors can give you all the, scientific stuff. But as human beings, we need that connection, don't we?
Would you ever let your little kid be yelled at for 2 years by somebody not mentally well? You would tell your kid to stand up.
Right.
So I, in a way, had to apologize to the ether, to the universe for letting myself be so mistreated.
All of a sudden, all the moments, all the things that you want to do start floating through, and you're left with the realization that right now in this moment, my life is about to shift and change. And it did.
When I had cancer and I went for my surgery, that was like the universe rattling me up and saying, really? Your life doesn't matter? I had 4 kids that were bawling their hearts out and how they would be perhaps destroyed.
I had to sit there and allow people to, remind me to take my medication, make sure I take my medication, help me up if I'm feeling weak, and all those things that I would always do for others. I had to rely on someone to do it for myself. So that was the biggest adjustment for me.
So the shift from being a giver to a receiver.
Yeah.
I think the most beautiful thing that's happening here today is that we're all storytellers. And I believe storytelling is the most powerful medium for healing. And hence the whole impetus of Cancer Heroes. Because each one of us has had to be on our own heroic journey, no matter how we got here.
And so there was a lot of, peeling back the onion, getting to know who Shirley is, what does she enjoy. I didn't know who I was
I didn't know who I was at all.
No, you didn't.
I think it's so important in life to share. We all are so unique and have incredible gifts, and we are who we are, and we need to embrace that. And certainly that's something that I've learned throughout the years, is to really just be my pure, authentic self, and to not be afraid to shine, to not be afraid to live your best life. You know, because I played small. I've played very small in the past because I was afraid to shine brighter than other people.
4 kids, we were a tight family, and for them to not have a parent and then they go into foster homes or God knows what, I don't even want to think of that. So when I went for my cancer surgery and when they were giving me anesthesia, that's when I realized my life matters.
I learned how to relax because I'm a busybody, and I am just every day picturing myself on a beach these days. So I don't know. I don't want to say it was a bad thing that happened in my life. It was just a blip in my life, but I learned a lot from it, and it really did change me.
I also truly believe a lot of it is the willpower and the mindset, right?
I was holding on to a lot of intense emotions, unforgiveness, anger, bitterness. And what cancer did was it caused me to look at the issues of my heart.
I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and that moment of knowing that I had breast cancer, just felt like the cancer was really old, that it represented a lot of the past. It was not something that just sort of showed up. I believe, it evolved throughout decades of suppressing emotion and feeling. Because I grew up in a family believing that if I showed that I was, hurt, that it was a sign of weakness. So I never cried, even though I wanted to cry.
What I recognized after my cancer experience, and I was on my own, I had separated and divorced from my husband. I realized that I wanted to give back to the community, and I was in a search for that. And I ended up, I'm still involved with this. It's Courage in Action, and it's a group for women. And the founder of this is a landmark graduate, absolutely. And I had started to, interact with her and the rest of the team. And there was few of the women who had worked through Landmark. And I just kind of looked at them and went, I don't know what this is, but I want what they have. I need this in my life. And the next thing I know, I'm registered and signed up, and I was a part of Landmark.
My kids are there, and just for them, my life matters. Just for me, my life matters, and I can choose what I want my life to be. And so in that moment when I was just, passing out, I just prayed to God, because I'm a believer.
Oh, you know what? You just have to take everything one day at a time, and you have to trust the people around you. A lot of times we're going through things and we think that we know best because, all of a sudden we become Google experts and all those other things, and we let our fear take over. But trust in the people around you, and you're there to just take care of yourself and get better.
I just decided, okay, I'm gonna go volunteer, because I think that's the one thing what I learned. When you start getting into depression or worry, as we do when we get older especially, the best medicine is action. And I think things can always be better, but I always say things can always be worse. And when you start giving and volunteering and giving to others, you realize a lot of people are oftentimes in worse situation.
And I said, just give me one more chance. I don't want to die. I want to live my life. And and that's what happened. I got what I chose, and my life has miraculously, evolved into a very different experience now.
And again, it's with a flick of a switch. Life can change up or down. But there's always hope. Future is promised to no one, whether you got an illness or not.
Yes.
But at the end of it, my family said that I gave them faith.
There you go.
And if we can do nothing but give people faith,
That's a lot of strength.
I think you know, the God that is within all of us is very humbling.
It's okay to just sit in that dark puddle and feel it all,
Yes.
to heal it all.
And oftentimes, we don't learn those lessons about life, or we don't appreciate it until you're confronted with the fear of losing it, right? And it shouldn't even have to be there.
Really indulge yourself in that full spectrum, however long it takes. You can't do it all alone, though. Please pick up the phone.
Well, you
Reach
don't
for help.
have to do it all alone.
Exactly.
There is a choice.
I am healed to serve and love God with all my heart. I am healed to serve. From your word I will never part. I am healed to serve and love God faithfully. Healed to serve. Thank you, God, for loving me.